lots of refreshments and the breakfast in the back. So do not hesitate if you to get up and grab some more coffee or grab a banana or a sweet roll. What you'll find, women do not do that as much as men do, right? So do not hesitate. Please feel welcome. Please feel comfortable. And we just want to make sure that everybody is energized and sugared up to kind of engage in this incredible session. So I am so excited about the program today with the BPI group. Our program topic, the theme is harnessing your personal power. And it really doesn't matter at what point of your career that you are. This session is going to give everyone something to use, take out of this room, and continue to help you with your leadership journey. I want to introduce our incredible BPI group. First, Brenda Wenzel. She's our featured speaker today. She's the managing director of BPI Group and leads their leadership acceleration practice. Her work largely focuses on advancing women and their impact at all levels of organizations. Brenda and her colleagues have coached and trained over 25,000 women across the globe. She's an experienced, accredited coach and enjoyed a long corporate career prior to joining the BPI group. She served in executive leadership roles in the financial services with Wachovia, which is now Wells Fargo. But for those of you Georgians, Wachovia was one of the big banks down there, and with Barclays in London. She's also called on to be the first Chief Customer Experience Officer for the U.S. Department of Education's Office of Federal Student Aid. So for many of us who had those packages, she's probably the one that helped you out with that. She's also a published writer with recent contributions to the Harvard Business Review. Her group has released 2 books, Break Your Own Rules and The Influence Effect. I would highly recommend, if you're looking for something, additional executive coaching books, The Influence Effect is fantastic. I was fortunate enough to receive a copy, and I would highly recommend it. And the BPI group is now working on a 3rd that focuses on universal blind spots for women in the workplace. So you're going to hear probably a little bit about those tidbits today. So Brenda knows what it's like to be a woman in a high-impact field and has chosen to devote her remaining career to helping women move forward faster. So we really hope that you'll enjoy the time with her today. With Brenda today are Mary Herman and Susan Gallagher. Mary is the Managing Director of Global Executive Practice for BPI Group, and she leads an extensive team of professional coaches in the USA and abroad. Mary and her team are focused on delivering and helping organizations drive change and results through proven best practices in leadership and executive team development. Mary has more than 25 years of experience consulting with organizations around the world in areas of executive coaching, leadership development, and team development. She has refined her own unique style of authentic, results-driven coaching and advises from working with C-suite executives and board of directors in various industries. Her clients include Fortune 500 companies such as some of our sponsors today, BP, McDonald's, Coca-Cola, and Walgreens, as well as many top healthcare organizations, including Healthcare Services Corporation and Advocate Aurora Health. So wonderful sponsors in today's event. And when you get to know Mary, she's got this unbelievable calmness to her that is very, very soothing. So if you get a chance to talk to Mary, please do. You'll find you'll just be an instant zen after you talk to her for 2 minutes. Susan Gallagher is actually the president and CEO of the BPI Group, and she is the past board chair of the Chicago Network, and she's currently on the board of Dose Media. She's also on the board of Mercy Hospital and Health Systems. She has held many leadership positions at several organizations and has a strong track record of building high-performance leadership teams and growing companies. She has supported women and women of all colors to advance more women leaders throughout her career. And now that she's running the BPI Group, she's completely focused on building inclusive leaders and igniting bold futures for individuals and organizations. Without further ado, please help me welcome the BPI Group.
I don't think they're going to come up here and join me, are you, Susie and Mary? Chickens. Good morning. Good morning. I'm Brenda Wenzel. Thank you so much for joining us today. You heard a little bit about us, but I want to switch gears because this is about you this morning. And it's kind of an odd room. I feel a little lonely up here. So can you hear me okay back there? Are you good? All right. I'm not going to make anybody move or leave your Danish in your chair. Just stay where you are. But thank you so much for having us. I have personally looked forward to this for a couple of reasons. One is I heard there were some really powerful, influential women that were going to be here. And my first thought was, ooh, that's intimidating. And then my next thought is, I cannot wait to get there. And so thank you. I've had a chance to meet some of you in person before I got up here this morning. I'd love to meet you afterwards as well. So thank you for giving your time and joining us. I'm delighted to have this next hour and a half with you. How many of you, or is this your first kind of public thing that you've done since the pandemic? Yeah, I mean, most of us getting dressed, like from the waist down. I mean, I was telling Susie and Mary, I had 3 panic attacks last night that I had forgotten, like shoes, or just, basic equipment that you normally use. And so if you notice something wrong with me, don't tell me till later, okay? But this is one of the first times back. And on this topic of power and influence, it's really interesting because we've had to pull through our power and influence on a very remote camera, for the last 16 months. It's unprecedented in our lifetimes. And, let me acknowledge in that vein that there are people on Zoom right now who could not be here in person. So welcome to you. I think I'm looking directly at you right now. So if you're in your jeans and sweats and no lipstick and all that, we hate you for it, but enjoy the next hour and a half. The topic today is, as you heard earlier, we have spent a lot of time with women and men executives, but we just oddly have just spent most of our time trying to give women lift, trying to give women more power to go to the next challenge, the next opportunity, the next level, whatever it is they wanted to do. Our thing has been go bold, aim higher, go big. How do you do that? And we have a lot of things that we have learned and gained from our time working with women. And one of them has to do with personal power and influence, and that's the one I want to share today. If you had all week with me, can you imagine what we could get to? I know you don't want to spend all week. You only signed up for 90 minutes, but this idea of power and influence is what I want to spend time on today. Fair enough? Are you in the right place? Okay, I want you to think of this next hour or so, because you're going to have to participate. You're going to have to work for it. You can't just sit there and eat your Danish. I'm going to put you to work. Think of this as like a spa treatment. Do you know what I mean? When was the last time any of us went and got, just something routine, like a manicure, pedicure, or massage or anything? It's been a long time for me. How about you guys? Do you enjoy doing that when you can? When you do that, you're doing something for you. Maybe others benefit from it because, your face looks great if you've had a facial or something, but you really are doing that to recharge yourself, aren't we? When we go do that, it's this, and this is a very similar thing just in the professional arena. How often in the last, call it a week, a year, a month, have you spent time brushing up on you, your power, your influence, your career, your life? Can I see a show of hands? How many have spent intensive time doing that? Okay, we have a few. But that is exactly right. We don't. Even those of us who should know better. If we could borrow a page from athletes, if we could borrow a page from any other profession except what we do in the corporate world, we could learn a thing or two. And I'm going to point some of that out. It takes work. It takes practice to be good. It takes practice to be powerful and influential. And so your spa treatment for the next hour and a half is about 1 or 2 things that you might think about that could give you lift, that could give you some power, that could give you a little boost, that could give you 1 quarter turn. And if you can walk away with 1 or 2 things that you can do for yourself, or many of you are leading other women, it could be that there are 1 or 2 things you can take and share. So I'm giving you this today to steal shamelessly. Go use it. Go help women move forward faster. Go help women get a lift, even ourselves. So what we have found in this work is that regardless of the level of women we work with, from the top of global organizations all the way down to, name the size, name the geography, name the industry, this stuff holds true. And every single one from the top all the way throughout an organization we work with, they will say, I know, I need to do this better. I need to be reminded of this. So we're going to do that. Now, before I start in, I want to share this quote. I realize that more and more the name Stephen Covey has less and less name recognition in audience. How many of you know Stephen Covey? Thank you, thank you. I was giving a talk right before the pandemic to some young, very, very young professionals, and I would say they were coming out of college and they didn't know who Stephen Covey was, which is okay, but he was one of the foremost thinkers and writers about leadership and the presence. And he said this, he wrote this: the most important thing we can do for ourselves and our careers is to focus on this instrument, which is the only thing we have to contribute. And so for us, beyond the products we sell, beyond the services we have, we usually are in some way, shape, or form trying to sell ourselves, trying to present our own influence and create memorabilia out of who we are and what we stand for and what we do. I'm going to ask you this question really quick. This is the first thing to get your mind going to help me, because we think to be the most influential and powerful that you can be, your best self, that you need to be energized and in a mode of thriving more often than not. So here's my question for you. I asked this of we had a group of us at our company on Friday, and we asked this question because we are just coming off something really unprecedented, aren't we? I mean, not in a century has this happened, and we have survived this thing. But it has taken a toll on all of us. And we work with women all over the world, and they are exhausted. They're just sort of like hanging on. I was doing some focus group research this past week, and they're saying, you know, what with the commute? I just work 2 extra hours on each end of the day. Their days are longer. There's no boundary. There's children involved or parents involved or you name it. And the fatigue is real. And the research says that it's inordinately impacting us more than any others. Would you believe that? Is anybody? Yeah, it is true. It's real. So we could spend another day on this whole concept of thriving and surviving, but I want to get a check on where you are. If you think, we like to think of it as a continuum. And on one end, we're all thriving. And that looks really different for all of us. And on the other end, we're surviving. And that looks really different for all of us, except that there is a universal visual that everyone has here, which is hanging on to the edge of our worlds by the fingertips or holding on with white knuckles and just burnout is a good way to put it. So I want you for a moment to think about yourself. If you want to close your eyes and imagine yourself over the last few months, do it. If you want to imagine yourself just this morning, do it. If you're in burnout and you close your eyes, don't fall asleep on me. I'll try to wake you up in a minute if you do. But I want you to imagine yourself when you have been thriving, when you are in that mode. What does that feel like to you? What are you doing? What's working for you? Everybody got that picture? Have you been there lately? Have you been you in thriving mode lately? Okay, I'm not seeing a whole lot of agreement. All right, go with me over to survival mode for a minute. Close your eyes and imagine, what is that like? What is survival for you? What does that look like? What does that feel like? You got that? That one might be very real for all of us. Man, we can come up with that one right away, can't we? I'm sorry, I'm trying to get to you over here. Anybody willing to share something about thriving? 1 or 2 things that describe you when you're thriving? Power. Empowered. Absolutely. Just like, mess with what I've got to say here, right? Who else? You have boundaries? Did I hear that right? Here you are. I thought you came from back there. Yeah, when we're thriving, we set some boundaries, and we're pretty hard on them, aren't we? We're like, no, I'm not taking that 6 a.m. flight. Who is it? Where is she? There she is, a 6 a.m. flight tomorrow. Boundaries, whatever that is. Children are not. This thing has been as hard on people without children as it has, and I'm one of them, as it has been with people with kids. We have to set boundaries, and when we are thriving, we are clear. We're really clear, aren't we? All right, what about surviving? How's that one feel? Tired. Yeah, exhausted. Scheduled. That is one of the biggest soul-sucking things that we have, is the overscheduled thing we put ourselves through. Anybody else? One more? I couldn't hear that one. Unfocused. Absolutely. There is no greater power robber, and I'm going to talk about power robbers in a minute, than the fatigued, fuzzy, unfocused. We really think we can multitask, don't we? And the research says that you really can't, that the mind focuses entirely on one thing before it moves to the other. And it doesn't mean that you can't do two things at one time. It just means that the mind is going to be unfocused on one or the other. And so over time, this adds to our stress, doesn't it? So thank you for going on that journey with me. How many of you feel like you're sort of like doing some of this? You're going back and forth? Yeah. Yes. There are weeks we do some things better. And what I want you to think about as we talk through power is, how can you pull yourself more into thriving mode when you need to? You know, how can you get there and spend more of your time here than over here? And because we live crazy, busy lives and the pressures on us and the commitments that we make, you can't always have the ideal world to be 24/7, all the time. It doesn't really work that way. But the point is, and the message I want you to hear about personal power is, if we stay too long, and the women that we work with and are maybe in our charge stay too long over here, we're never going to get the best out of ourselves or them. So how can we get more over here? And personal power and influence and some of these things are a practice, a way to do that. All right, so we women, we know that we have this unusual relationship with power. When you hear the word, how many of you are like thrilled about the word? Especially if it's describing yourself? I love it. I just met her 20 minutes ago, and I can tell that's power in the chair right there. How many of you have an unusual reaction to the word? You're just like, I'd rather use the word influence maybe. Yeah. We find this to be true. I mentioned we're doing some research. We're doing a couple of points of research right now. And what we have learned is that women do have this unusual relationship with the word power. Am I okay? You're going to switch my bag? My bag. Please hold. We have a mechanical. Can I keep talking?
No, it's going to go just for a second.
Is that it? Okay. We have an unusual relationship with power, and what we're hearing in this research is that many women would rather not use the word in relationship to themselves. And there's something about it. We haven't gotten underneath all of it yet, but what we believe is that it connotates some things about politics and influence and things like that might not sit well. Good? So I'm going to hold this in my hand so maybe I won't lose you again. How about that? I'm wired up here. So we want to break this idea down for you. We want to break this idea of power down for you if we can. There are three types. There are three types of power, and I'm going to focus on personal power primarily today. But there is position power. So how many of you use the name on, yeah, thank you. Let me, excuse me, sorry. What's happened? Is a battery dying? Okay, is this better? Okay. Sorry if you couldn't hear me in the back. Position power. Position power is usually the role that we are in. It's the name on, it's the title on our card. It's the way we introduce what we do for a living is the position power. How many of you believe you have position power? How many of you use your position power freely every day? Awesome. Okay, I might touch on that one in a minute because that one's really important, and women are less inclined to use that than our male colleagues. Doesn't mean we don't use it, it's just we're less inclined. There's expert power, subject matter expertise. Familiar with that one? Listen, this is the one we sail on most of our careers. We execute. We're the best at what we do, whether we're engineers or attorneys or consultants or whatever it is. This one, we believe, is the road to the promised land, and we hang on to it. We hang on to it, and we believe that other people are going to see us in action and pave the way for us, don't we? And then there's personal power. And this is the one that we spend a disproportionate, less time on than we should, or than the other two. But let me tell you, when you get the three of these things working together, it will give you energy. It will throw you back into thriving mode faster. And if you can be conscious about it and how to put it together and practice it and work on it, it will give you lift. It will help you go bolder, faster. You'll have more fun. You'll have more energy. You're gonna be more focused. All of the things that you just said. You cannot buy an app for this. Sorry, I'm breaking the news to you right now. You cannot put this on your phone. You've got to work on it yourself. It's like an athlete. They work relentlessly on these things, and these are the three for us in the professional world. All right, I want to hear about the most personally powerful, woman or man. I want you to close your eyes for a minute and imagine that person. They might be in your current space. They might be from your past. But all of us have known someone personally powerful. Have you got it in your head? Give me some words to describe that. And if you are on Zoom, chat. I'd love to read the chats later. Please chat us up. Describe the personally powerful woman or man that you're thinking about. What was it like? Yes. Confident. Fearless. Ability to command the room upon entrance. Charismatic. Aren't these great words?
We're going to read some from Zoom.
Please, read some from the chat. Yeah, they got to involve these folks. All right.
We have confident, human, calm, brilliant, charismatic, self-assured, deliberate, unapologetic, authentic, and caring.
I love that. What a great list. Okay, how many of you believe that you do that? Yeah. Yes, we can do this. This is a learned skill, a learned capacity, but we have to be intentional. And if you ever work with our group, we will use the word intentional and deliberate over and over again because you have to give this thought. You have to give your subject matter thought. Why don't you have to give yourself your own personal power thought in order to do it well and do it better? All right, so now you have a picture of what it looks like, what it sounds like. I want to share with you a model. We do hundreds of 360 feedback on women. I mean, over time, we've done thousands and thousands and thousands of these. And I can't tell you how many times we will get feedback on a woman, and it's something along the lines of, well, she really needs to work on her presence. So you try to dig on that. So what does that mean? And we hear it over and over. And so we did some research. We said, let's go look at the literature and let's find out what is this thing called presence? What is this thing called executive presence? And why is it that women don't seem to have it? Why is it that women at very senior levels, this is still something that their colleagues think they need? So we did the research. Now, I'm not going to tell you that this is an exhaustive list, but these 7 items here pretty much gets it. So when we start digging now, when we hear that comment, we never let anybody off the hook with that comment. So if we're coaching one of you women, we're like, no, tell me what it is that she needs specifically. And I'll go around the horn on this with them until we nail it. Because until you know exactly what it is that they're talking about, you can't figure out what it is that you don't have that would give you an extra lift. So here it is. I am decoding the myth for you right here. Steal shamelessly, if you would like. The first one has to do with adapting to difficult situations. What we find with women who do this well, and these powerful women that we work with and for, adapt. They calibrate. When things don't go well, when that budget gets cut, when the executive suite changes, there's an ability to adapt and keep playing. Can you think of a time when you needed to adapt better or differently? It is a characteristic, it is a skill set, and if you're conscious of it, then you'll start to know, okay, is this a moment where I need to show up differently because something is changing in the environment. Adapting here is important. Calm and composed demeanor. All right, this is a hard one because we dug in on this one too, and here's what we found out. There's a double standard here for us women. You've heard it, you know it, it's been well researched. It is not fair, but it is. You know, we just have, especially the higher and further we go, the more scale and scope we have, we just get judged differently. The optics on us are just different. And so we have to be extra conscious of our demeanor and our calm. I was sitting outside a boardroom working with a client a couple of years ago. We're sitting out waiting on our meeting to start, but the boardroom was over there. So in sitting and waiting, we got to see all the people come off the elevator and go into this room. You know, men would come in, you know, phone in their hand, put it in their jacket. They'd walk in, they're chatting it up. They're talking about things, you know, probably the agenda and what they've already decided before they were going in there. But that's another point. They were talking. They'd go in and they'd file in, and the doors close and the meeting starts. And about 10 minutes later, this woman gets off the elevator. And she's got a bag on this shoulder and a bag on this arm, her phone and files under her arm, and she is charging off the elevator. She's clearly late. She is running. I'm pretty sure she was perspiring. She was clearly, who said meetings, back-to-back meetings? I see you back there. She clearly had scheduled herself a little tight, and she goes running to the door, and we actually knew her. We'd met her before. She's, hi, I gotta go, I'm late. And my first thought was, what with the bags? I mean, there was a lot of bags. I thought maybe it's a seminar on bag selling, and she's going, you know, you run through these things, but she's a very senior woman. And I thought, wow, okay. She walked into the room, the door closed behind her, and you know, I don't know what happened on the other side of that door. I do know that she did not have long tenure on that group, on that committee. Calm, composed demeanor. Why do we do that? Why do we rush ourselves like that? We have to spend more time being prepared and ready. And do as I say, not as I do on this one, okay? I'm just saying. We all have to find our own cadence for this, and we all have a lot to do. But when you think of executive presence, women who figure this one out and who learn and set the right boundaries so that they can have calm and cool demeanor and focused, this goes a long way. Oh, sorry, I'm going to go quickly around these because I want to get into something. Sharing strengths and taking credit for achievements. This is really hard for us, isn't it? We cannot use the word I with a gun to our head. I mean, we can't, it is so hard, isn't it? Aren't we? We're thanking the team, and if someone thanks us for a job well done, it's like, well, we had a great team on that, and we did this and we did that. We have a very, very hard time standing in our space, owning our power, and just simply saying thank you. We have a really hard time with this, and I'm going to encourage you and the women that you choose to share this with to practice owning their part. I'm not suggesting that they take credit for everything, but we all had some hand in the work, and coaching women to figure out what that is important. Commanding and confident presence, speaking up, strong voice. Boy, finding our voice is one of the hardest things because, listen, that imposter syndrome is alive and well, isn't it? Are y'all with me on that? You know what I'm talking about. I mean, this imposter syndrome that says, you know, they're going to figure me out really soon. I really can't do this. I can't believe I've gotten away with it this long. Is anybody with me? I mean, alive and well. It's been my best friend for years. It sneaks up on you. It sneaks up on you at times. And, you know, what we would say to you is, ask that voice to stand down. You know, heard you, thank you. But, you know, I do have some experience here. I do have a voice. I do have a point of view to share. And when we find that voice and prepare and share, it takes us places. It's really important. It's really important not to be deferential here. And finding your voice and figuring out what it is you need and want to say is a practiced skill. It does not, I know this is going to crush my friend Mary Herman, but it does not come to us on the spot in the room. Now, some of us are good on our feet, but imagine how good you would be if you practiced and you're good on your feet. Oops, sorry, I did that again. Appropriately assertive and not deferential. This is one that we, especially when we are the only woman in a room or the only in a room, and I can say this from my experience with it, it's really hard not to defer to the older to the wiser, to the majority. It takes courage to do this. It takes courage and practiced effort to not defer, but to hold fast to what you believe with all due respect to everyone else in the room. And fully present, projecting positive energy. Listen, I'm going to underscore this one 3 times. How many of us have been in the presence of someone that we have worked with or for, or, a client, where you are sitting with them and trying to have a conversation and they're on their phone, or they've got one eye looking at the computer screen. Am I alone in this? Maybe it's just me. It's distracting. It's rude. It's not present. And you know the difference when you are in the room with someone who is fully present and focused on you, don't you? You feel different. You engage differently. And you leave the room thinking differently about that person. Susie Gallagher is fabulous with this. Fully present, always. I'm not going to say, don't look at your phone if your kid is having a blow-up emergency. You know what I'm talking about. It's the difference between being distracted and being with someone. And in this day and age, it's been really hard to be with each other for a while. And then the last one is professional dress and speech. This depends on the industry you're in. It depends on your personal brand. And what we always say here is we love it when somebody has the inside matching the outside, and they're just rocking with how they feel, how you feel good. We always say if you look good, you feel good, and if you feel good, you do good. That was probably like some advertising slogan somewhere. But whatever your brand is, whatever it is you want to project, that's your choice. You get to make that. But we all play in an industry, so we have to wear the uniform sometimes, don't we? All right. So let me get to one other piece that's so important here. There's a psychologist named Albert Morabian. You probably heard about the Morabian research. What he did is he tried to look at the relative importance of verbal and nonverbal communication. It's really what he was after. And he was trying to find out if your nonverbals rob your verbals. Like, does your message meet how you're delivering it or not? And, no surprise, it's a reminder to a lot of us that, the content of our messages and word and phrases is about 7% if everything else doesn't line up with it. But that what people are listening to is your verbal vocal energy and your body energy. And so we can get, the message can be robbed if we're not paying enough attention to these other 2 things. And we often, with the women that we work with, haven't paid as much attention to these other 2. But if we could, our messages would actually land better. They would be more memorable. They'd be more impactful and effective. So if we can get all that working together, we've got something. All right, I want to hit with confidence markers. If you look in your book, just pass over that first page. Inside here, you will see that we've got this printed for you. So you can take this away, still shamelessly, and share with others that you'd like to help. These are also researched in the work that we did to find out, okay, well, what is it that is viewed as confident? I heard somebody say, we're talking about powerful people just now, and somebody said confident over here. And so these are things that mark confidence. It can be a really confusing term if we don't anchor it in something. So posture. Posture is really important to confidence. It's how you stand. It's how you receive. We've all seen it in the opposite way, but we often also don't think about it. Our posture sitting around tables, really important. We are all sitting in Zoom meetings, and sometimes our posture can be maybe not so much noticed on the camera, but it does something to our energy. And often, I know many of us, when we're doing these long end-on-end Zoom meetings, like to stand up. It helps your posture. Mary does that a lot. Body movement. Too fast, too slow. Got to get it just right. I call this one Goldilocks. You can't be all over the place, and if you can't be sort of a dead fish either, you've got to align your verbals with your movement. Gesturing. Tight gesturing is important when you're either speaking or when you're in a crowd or when you're with others. Facial expressions, eye contact, all of these fall into this category here of the body work that goes around. And this is the stuff that betrays our message if we don't get it right. These are the things, the body movements and gestures is what people read most often and very quickly. And so if we aren't lined up behind our message, then all this work we've done to prepare a message sort of gets lost. It can get lost. It can get sub-optimized, I'll put it that way. All right, so then we have vocal energy, the intonations and how we speak, the volume of how we speak, the energy of how we speak, the pace, the cadence. Have you ever been in one of those meetings where you came your turn to do the update or whatever it was, and you could not get it out fast enough? It's like, I just want to survive this and get out, and the pace of speech goes fast, and because we got a lot to cover. We got a lot to cover. We want to get it out there, get it over with, and move on. Got other things to do. The speaking pace, the cadence, tone, and pitch is a really important thing to practice. And how many of you practice this before you give an update? On a conference call, in person, or on Zoom? Yep, back here you do. How do you practice? You stand up and do it? Okay. Same thing there? All right. We all have these fabulous little iPhones now. And when we're coaching women, we say, look, I don't care if this is just a 10-minute update to your group. Practice it. Turn your iPhone on. Lay it there on the counter. Nobody has to see it but you, and listen to your voice and watch yourself. So we can put these two together. Pausing, silence. There is some research that says women do not use the pause and we don't use the silence. We're usually in go-go mode and we don't follow that very powerful thing. And then over here, the content. Some of this is the technical content, but some of this is how we deliver it. And we work and practice and videotape and coach women on this so much. And I'm going to share with you some of the things that we work with them on. And adapters and muscular language. Adapters. Often we will use sort of and helped with and sort of minimize language around things that we do. And we're not direct, and we don't use strong words. And we're going to encourage you, and we'll talk about this in just a minute, of using what we call muscular language, strong words. Not I helped with this strategy. I directed the team on this strategy. You see what I'm saying? It's a different thing. It has a different way of how you feel about your power. Detail, targeting the message, detail. We are less often likely to use data and analytics to back up what we say. Some of us may do that more than others. A lot of it depends on the field that we're in. But most often when we are hearing a story, most often when we are working with women on a message they're trying to send, they could punctuate with a lot more data than we use. And they know it. They've got it. It's just a matter of organizing it, getting it together. All right, so I want you to take this page here and go down this list. It's a couple of pages, 2 and 3, I think. And I want you to put a check mark or a plus mark in the ones that you think are really strengths for you. You do these really well. You almost do these without thinking. And then I want you to put a minus sign against the ones that you think, wow, if I worked on that, it could make a difference. And that's one I want to focus on. I hadn't thought about it, or I want to focus on it. If you're on Zoom, I believe you should have a link to this, and you can pull this up and use it on your computer. Take a minute to do this, and then I'm going to have us break into some conversations. So this is the part where you get to stand up and talk again. Let me give you a second to go through it.
Hey, Brenda, can you flip the slide back to the confidence markers?
Absolutely. There you go.
Just for the people on Zoom.
Yes, on Zoom. Okay, thank you. And then the rest of you, I think, have these in some detail in the worksheet you've got. Any questions before I get you on your feet here for a minute? Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's a good question. The thought was, how has Zoom changed a lot of this? Are most of these still relevant? You can feel the difference, can't you? It is true. These all hold true, especially the speaking parts, and especially the posture pieces. The vocal energy and content, maybe even more relevant and important because of Zoom, because you don't have this to back you up. You don't have a lot of that to help you or hurt you, really, but you sure don't have it to help you. So it has been a real challenge. How do you emit this over a box that frames pretty much our shoulders up? It's really, really a challenge. But all of this is still relevant. The speaking piece, the speaking patterns, the detail in our message, all of that. Any other questions? All right, I'm going to get you on your feet for a second. I want you to find somebody you don't know, if you're brave. Come on, go bold. Let's go bold. Meet somebody we don't know and share with each other, a couple of them that you do really well, but especially the one or two that you think, God, I really want to work on that. And my colleagues are going to sort of walk around, and if you have questions, we'll come back and share thoughts and questions. I'm going to give you 15 minutes to do it, if that's all right. And if you're on the Zoom, we're going to break you into some groups. And so you'll do the same thing. Discuss, each one of you, take a moment, discuss the ones you do well and the ones you're working on. Why don't you get into groups of 3? How about that? Will that work? All right. Ready, set, go.
It was cutting out, and I'm still, according to the meters that I read to tell you whether it's good or bad, it's saying it's fine until about 5 minutes into when you're talking. I don't know what. I'm sorry. I know you're like I don't want to hold this thing,
Oh, no,
but
it's fine. It's fine.
for some reason
Things in my hands.
that's fine, even though they work the same way as the other. Absolutely. So I just wanted to apologize. I'm sorry. Texting people. I'm sorry.
No, don't worry about it. I'm good. Thank you.
Sorry. Nice to meet you. You're doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. I know it's a lot to come out.
It's really engaging. Third and fourth. I know. I can look. There's two in there. When my doctor told me, I just started crying. She's like, gather your thoughts and come back in a few weeks. Okay, I'm gonna go call my mom. No, I'm past the panic and I'm more just, it's gonna be fine. I can do this.
of our organization that's taken a step back
Yeah.
and allowing us to come to the forefront and acknowledging that we haven't been given the space and we haven't been given the voice, and he's given us a space to be able to speak freely.
That's great.
And
That is great.
creating a culture where there's no retribution
That's right.
for stepping out,
Yeah.
for speaking out, and leveraging your
And step right through it.
Oh,
Just y'all just keep stepping right through it.
We have a small window, ladies. I feel like we have a small
We do.
window to see this opportunity.
We do. I think we do.
If we don't leverage it to our highest
Yeah,
power right
I
now,
agree.
we will lose it.
I agree because we're
it'll go back
losing
to
it. That's right. We are not going back there if we can help it, are we?
if you take this power, or if we take this power
That's it.
and harness it.
That's exactly
and
right.
make sure that we catapult ourselves way beyond the ability to pull back.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. Yeah, absolutely. We've got about 5 more minutes or so. You know where it is, right? It's out there to the right.
Yeah, which way is it? I was going to
Oh,
the
yeah.
bathroom. Is she
Right
doing
through that door there on the left, I think. Yeah. Yep, I think that's it.
This is great. So
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Very
You're,
much enjoying.
you're helping me connect here.
Okay,
I
good.
appreciate
Yeah,
that.
no, I
Yeah,
love it.
take your
This is
time.
great.
About 5 more minutes.
Okay, perfect.
Take about 5 more minutes, and we'll start back up. Okay, let's start moving back to our seats, or moving back to wherever you were sitting. And we'll bring everybody back here. All right. Grab that extra cup of coffee or water if you need it. All right. How was that? Did everybody get some good tips? It's always a danger letting powerful, influential women walk away. All right. All right, did you enjoy the time with each other? Did you get some good tips? And okay, awesome. Got some sharing, some ideas and thoughts. Did you feel like you had some camaraderie in there? Like you're not alone on this stuff. Often we hear that a lot is that women are like, at least I'm not the only one fighting this thing or that thing, or I've never thought of this. So you're now colleagues for life on that one. Let's shift gears. So my hope for you is that you've got at least one or two things that you want to add to your repertoire. Listen, you are all amazingly successful, accomplished women. And so what we're talking about here is stuff that just one quarter turn might give you some lift, or might put you in thriving mode more often, or might make you more confident, or might make you more bold. So steal it, use it, try it, practice it. We can bring the Zoom folks back if they're not in breakout rooms yet. I want to switch gears to the other side of the coin, because as much as we can help ourselves with these confidence markers, it's amazing the stuff we can do unwittingly and unknowingly to take away our power. And we do it often, and we see it often with not only ourselves, but women we work with. And I want to share with you what we call power robbers, because these are the things that can detract. They can just take away or make us less powerful and influential than we should be, or than we think we are. Let me share those, and they are on the next page in your workbook. All right. So there are verbal ones and there are nonverbal ones. Again, not an exhaustive list, but we have found these time and again in our work with women. And men, by the way. There are particularly men of color who have some of the same challenges and dynamics that we face. Some of it's the way we're all socialized. Some of it's just, other factors. But let me hit these verbal power robbers. I'm not going to go through and explain all of them, but if you do have a question or one strikes your attention, raise your hand or let me know and I'll stop. Do you know that when we introduce ourselves, most often we only use our first name? We rarely will use the full suite of our position power. That matters to certain audiences, and there's certain times that you do that and don't do that. But in moments when it matters, the research has shown that we are less likely than our male colleagues to own and step into the full breadth of not just our name, but what our expertise power or our position power is. And practice that at some point. It's not like you do this with people you see every day, but there are forums where that can matter. I worked with an engineer, a brilliant engineer once, and we were breaking down her brand. And we were trying to she was really struggling with, I'm new to this firm. What I do is very, skilled and, expertise, and it's really hard to communicate, and so I'd rather just not. She really struggled with that. When I was digging down deep on her expertise, she was like one of three professionals, happened to be a woman, in her field in the country with what she did with eco-engineering and science. She hadn't owned that at all. She hadn't mentioned that skill set at all. It's like it was table stakes. Don't all women have 3 advanced degrees in eco-science, engineering, subterranean, whatever it was? It was like, she undermined her power by not even finding the words to talk about it. And it was fascinating. So we gave her language. And the start of those conversations was, how did she introduce herself? How did she actually put it out there? And we found fun ways to do that so that it helped her naturally and in her own style get into what she could share and what was valuable about her. We rarely use our job titles. I just mentioned that, position power. We don't always do that. Men will use not only for the men in the room, we do love you, but often when men are, Mark, I love you, often they will not only introduce their own title, but, maybe some they made up and borrowed, and they'll like throw those out there too. It's like, really? You're the global what? No compunction. They'll do it. They'll throw the title out there. Meanwhile, we really are, hold back a little bit on this whole thing. Even if we're the director and the queen mother of whatever it is, you don't know that till you've talked to us for a while. And somebody usually comes up and says, let me tell you about her, right? Are we guilty? We do. We do that. Often we will ask questions. And I don't mean it's not good to ask questions, but sometimes we lean on that as a crutch, especially if we are outnumbered, especially if we're bringing up the contrarian point of view, especially if we're trying to bring people along with us. And that is fine, but don't overdo it. And we've all seen it overdone. We get in a room and we start asking the question, which we know the answer to, by the way, but we think we're being collaborative, and it can be overdone. I'm not saying don't do it. There's a time and place for it, but watch yourselves and watch your other women when it gets to be like, are you trying to make a point or are you trying to lead me to your point? There's a difference. Oh, how many times we talk about what we're not good at? My sister's the queen of this. She's a remarkable writer and artist. She taught children for 35 years. I heard someone compliment her on her latest children's book not long ago, and she said, well, I couldn't play tennis, and I didn't do this, and I didn't do that, so I had to do this. I'm like, no, who are you? We're not related. We do that, don't we? We kind of go to the thanks, but, I sort of got into this. We don't have to do that, but sometimes we will slip into that, and we will hear our colleagues slip into that. Okay, voice going up at the sentence. You've heard this, right? You've heard when we talk, sometimes we end up here on the upspeak, and it is a tick. It's a tick. Listen to yourself, especially when you've got your iPhone. I know we're all going to practice out of here. You're going to be using your iPhone to listen to yourself. Ground your sentences. If you make a statement, make a statement. Don't end it in a question. Don't end it in a rhyme and riddle, because it chips away at your power and your presence. It's a robber. And overdone too much, people lose the message, and that's what's most important, is you want them to hear you. You want them to hear your point. I'll run through these pretty quickly. Using qualifying words and hedges. I'm not the expert, but I've not been in this very long, but who you really should talk with is, X, but we don't have to do that. Just make your point. Just say what we need to say. We don't have to hedge it. Qualifiers and preambles. Boy, do we give details. We can over-explain sometimes. Maybe it's because our communication center in our brain is like twice the size of our male colleagues. I don't know. But we call it the long wind-up. You've got a point to make. So you're going to here comes the history. There's a lot of history involved, but you need to know it, because I'm getting ready to make the point. If you don't know this history, you're going to miss it. And then we go into the other dynamics, and then by the time we've thrown the ball, we've sort of lost our audience. They're sort of like, this is why we get interrupted. And the research says women get interrupted 2/3 time more than our male colleagues. And I wonder, having done this work for so long with so many and seen this dynamic, I wonder if this has something to do with it. Because we aren't concise always. We haven't thought about it enough to boil it down to the point. So watch ourselves around the details and the wind up. Over apologizing. I'm sorry. I don't have anything else to say about that one. We apologize for everything. Watch this in your written communications as well. All of this. Watch all of this in your written communications as well. I have the women that we work with to go back and read everything. Be brutal with yourself. Don't start that email with, I'm sorry. Sorry I'm late responding. Sorry I didn't get this to you at midnight last night when the deadline probably is not but a week away. Do you see where I'm going? We have this tendency to feel over-apologetic, and we're not totally sure where that comes from, but it's alive and it's working well in all of us. And we deflect compliments. We were just talking down here, Gwen and a couple of us were talking about why is it that we don't step in and own the things that we do well, and why do we deflect that? Why do we defer that? Watch yourself. And watch yourself in your writing communications as well. How often do we deflect when really we could step right into it and say, thank you. I'm really proud of that work. Or some of the, it felt great to do that work. However your style is, and just stop right there. Ooh, we ask permission. There is one piece of work we do with women, and it is around, and men, but a lot of this is related to women right now, and we call it the strategic ask. So how many of you have lately asked for something really important and strategic for yourself, for your career? Got one or two hands back here? Okay. Great. Keep going. You might have to ask several times, but get it. Whatever it is you want and need, go get it. Often what we have to do here is we have to boil this ask down into the real ask, because often it comes out as asking for permission. We have this saying in our group, it's called proceed until apprehended. And we say, you know what? Go. Keep going until somebody stops you. Don't ask for permission. You might certainly have to bring people along with you, and I'm not saying go out and do something crazy for your careers, because we all have budgets and we all have that kind of stuff. But when you listen to your ask and you boil your ask down, be sure that by the time you've done all that work, you're really asking for something substantial. You're not asking for permission to go do what you could probably already do. Make sense? Does anybody feel like they have to do that a lot? Okay. I mentioned taking a long time. We're not always at ease telling stories. Storytelling is a high leadership art. It is the language of leaders. We do a lot of work around storytelling, but often what we find is that we're not comfortable with it. We're sometimes not good at it. We don't think we're good at it. We are better at it than we think we are, but there's a lot to be said here. And we ask a lot of questions and we get interrupted. The nonverbal power robbers, I am not saying it's not okay to tilt your head, but often, if you're in, and I've seen this particularly with some of the younger colleagues that we've worked with, they are in listen mode, but they're going sideways on us. Have you ever seen it? You've done it? Maybe we've done it, I don't know. Or the professional shot, has the big tilt. We're just saying that a straight-on approach is much more personally powerful. It keeps you in the moment. It keeps people engaged with you. Stay there if you can. It can be a robber. We fidget. We don't claim our space. We were just talking about this a few minutes ago, too. Do you remember in the old days when you go into a room and you sit at a conference table, and our male colleagues, man, they'd come in with that one pad of paper if they had that, and then they would spread out, And, we would go in there and we'd get in our chair if we sat at the table. I mean, there were a lot of times that women would move to the wall or to the side of the wall. And we pull our things in. The next guy comes in, and he's there, and we do this. I was coaching a CEO of a healthcare group, and she was asked to be, she was the most distinguished woman in her field and what she did. She was recognized for her work. And she was asked to sit on this panel with several others, 3 other men. And I videotaped her throughout it's like a time lapse, video, throughout the entire panel that she did. Okay? She's sitting in the middle, and there's one of the male panelists here and here and here. And she started out here. And throughout the entire panel, her chair kept getting back and back, and the men kept pushing in and in. And by the last frame of the panel, you couldn't even see her. And we started our work together. And so take your space. I don't mean spread out and lie down on the table, but, own the space you're in. We were talking about that earlier. We just sort of shrink to fit sometimes, and we can own our space. We can own our space better, spread out. In the Zoom world, that might mean talk more. It might mean say more. It might mean speak up more. It might be get the camera on. Take yourself off mute. Get in there. Get in that game. Don't hide behind the, video shutdown and the mute shutdown. So to your point, there are ways we can do this in this remote-ish kind of thing we're in that can make us more powerful if we go into it. There's only one or two others I want to mention. If you have questions, I'll stop. This one we get a lot of questions on, taking excessive notes in meetings. That one sometimes gets confused. We're not saying here don't take notes, because you have to walk out of there knowing what you're doing next and all that. But what we find often is that women get into the position of being the scribe, the note taker. Often the young woman in the room is the one who's asked to take notes and to follow up with everyone and do the minutes of a meeting. And, fine if we have to do that, but let's share the wealth. Let's everybody take a turn at that. It will rob you of your power if that is what you become known for. Put it there. Unless that's what you want to be. Unless you want to be the best scribe and note taker ever. I mean, then that's your gig, which is nothing wrong with that. But what we're saying here is you want to watch for your brand. You want to be a contributor in the room. And when you feel like you are absorbed in note-taking and not a participant in the room, that's the defining point. And, we've all fallen into that. I've fallen into that, especially at times when I'm in a subject matter in an organization that we're not familiar with. I have found myself doing that. It's like, stop, look up, you've got to be in the room. Does that make sense? This one gets confusing a lot. Any questions on these? Can I clarify anything? Yes? I am unable to hear you. Hang on a second. Yes, scream.
Okay, so for people who come from cultures where gesticulation, large gesticulation is normal, how do you recommend those people handle gestures?
Okay, so if you got people who are used to the big gesturing. Oh, yeah, culturally, that can be a thing. Gesturing is not bad. When you get to a point where the gesturing is detracting from the message, that's where the line is. And so what we try to do is not work with people to contain them. Gesturing can be punctuation. It can be really, really important. It can be the body language that supports the message. So we have to be really careful not to contain that to a point where that person doesn't feel like they're themselves. But when the gesturing becomes the point, or it's repetitive, or it's big, and it doesn't support the message and doesn't land right, that's where we say, pull it down a little bit. And we rarely say stop gesturing. We usually say, if you could think of it as a little knob with volume knob, if you could just turn it down one or two notches, and we work with that to just try to make them more powerful and less wild. We call this thing the gesture box. And it's sort of like a Zoom box. Yeah, you got it. It's sort of like right here to here and here. And gestures are more personally powerful, and they're more effective and support a message when they stay in that box. Because you can hit people. You can knock over coffee or red wine. I mean, it can be tough. So does that answer your question? Yeah. Any other question? Okay, so you have a list of these. And I want you to do the same thing. I want you to go through this and put a check mark by one or two that you think, I wonder if I do that, and I want to work on that. And there's something really great about having a colleague that knows you well to help you with this, and sort of call it out when you're doing it. If it's a colleague that sees you every day, you can also often ask them, look, tell me if I'm whining, if my message is taking too long to get out there. Tell me if I'm, not getting to the point. Tell me how many times I said, Tell me how many times I used that filler language that is really just because I'm not, I'm nervous or I'm not prepared or whatever it is. So if you have a colleague to help you with that, it's even better. So take a minute, pick a few that you want to work on, and I want you to go find a few other people you haven't talked to yet. Go meet them and share this. And we're going to do this for about 10 minutes. So if you're on Zoom, we're going to do Zoom breakout room for 10 minutes. And I would, chat, ask questions. Are there any questions in the Zoom chat right now?
Yeah, there is one question. again, on that we're a little slow on pickup, but how does all this, probably the comment on gesturing, how is that impacted when half the room is on Zoom and half the room is in person? And maybe you can take it after the break.
Okay. This is a hard hybrid world we're living in right now. So I'll come back to that one when we come back about gesturing. So find a couple of new friends and meet each other and be vulnerable. Share the ones that you want to work on and see if they've got any tricks and tips that can help you out. All right, 10 minutes. Okay, let's come back together. All right. Final moments. We'll bring all those folks back from the Zoom breakout rooms, and we'll close it out here. Are you meeting some people maybe you haven't met before? Yep. You know, we women, here's another word that we've learned in working with women is women really have this visceral reaction to the word networking. We just really, it's like, ugh, do I really have to go do that? Except my extroverted partners and friends who can't wait to do that kind of thing. But we don't mind relationship building, do we? We love that. I mean, women have the best relationships and networks, really, but we hate that word. So consider yourself today in the spa day, just hanging out without the robe with other women colleagues who are as amazing and powerful and wonderful as you are. So you just came off a conversation about power robbers. Give me some things. What are you thinking? Any comments or conversation that you had that you want to share? Yes. I love it, Misty Drake. Full name. All right. Proof positive right here. She was just, if you couldn't hear us on the Zoom, she was just saying that Misty Drake. That is a very cool name, by the way. Isn't it? I mean, that's almost Hollywood-like. She was saying that she was notorious for not saying her full name, if you couldn't hear this on Zoom. And now she's going to own that, step into it. And even your other colleagues were using their full name, but you still said, I'm Misty. Misty Drake. Very good. Anybody else? Back here? Oh, she even stood up. Yes, give her a round of applause. This is personal power right here. She stood up. Okay.
So fast to help it compound all of the other issues.
Good. Okay, excellent. She's saying that she's trying to, at least the one that you're going to focus on first is slowing your speech down, pausing and being silent, giving people a minute to catch up with your rate of pace. This one's so important. We work with a group from theater. You know, that's what they've done their whole careers, and we bring them in to work with us on these kinds of things because there's a lot of power in what theater experts do that we can do every day, just like athletes. And speech pattern is something they work a lot with us on. It's how to slow it down. And I'm a fast talker. Am I a fast talker? Kind of a fast talker. I too have had to work on that constantly because you get to the end of it and you're like, what do you mean? They're not with me, they're not following me, and it's because they're still catching up. So yes, once we master one of these things, another one pops up all the time. There's always something. So you can see the amazing awareness you have to have and the practice and the constant taking care of your instrument, the one thing that you have to bring to the game. What else? Any other thoughts, questions? Can we have one in the back, maybe off Zoom?
We have a question from Carrie Diamond on Zoom. Can you clarify if not using people's names in conversation refers to just during the intro or throughout ongoing conversation?
It's really throughout. This is really the power of letting people know that you know who they are and that you're connecting with them. And often we don't do that, especially when we're in a room full of people and we don't know their names and all of that. But even with colleagues that we work with and we work with often, to look them in the eyes and to hear what they're saying and to put our phones down and to connect and say, you know, John, I hear you. or, whatever it is, and to let them know. Hearing your name is a powerful psychological thing. And when we are able to connect with people in that way and honor them by using their name, it does bring them closer to us. It is a personally powerful thing to do, and it's a small thing, but it is a way of connecting. Any other questions? Boy, have you guys been troopers today. I love a group of women. If you say, get up and get in a group, you get up and they get in a group. You don't have anybody hanging on the walls. So, we feel so strongly about this work that we are starting academies to bring people in from cohorts in from different companies. If your company is not inclined to create, academies and universities and things like that in the organization, we're gonna make that available so that cohorts can be sent to us. We are doing boot camps and workshops all the time to just help fine-tune our professional selves. And so what a pleasure it has been to be with you today. And I think I have a question back here.
We have one more question. Can you give some comments on, assuming going forward is going to be hybrid, where you're going to have people in a room and on a screen? How do you balance all of these, power robbers while you're trying to stay calm and look very under control, but speaking to two different mediums?
Boy, it's hard. That was the question that came up earlier. I would just say I don't think there's a magic bullet to this. I do think this is one where we've got to constantly stay aware and prepared and focused. And so if you're going into a meeting or a forum or whatever it is that's got a hybrid audience, then you have to play to both. You have to understand all of these things that can detract. What are the ones that, you can't focus on 12 things at one time. So just pick one or two. Like she said, I'm going to focus on my speech. Be deliberate and intentional and on purpose about how you want to show up in that room. Imagine that thriving best self, the clear thinking, focused, unhurried, professional person or fabulous person, don't even have to be professional environment. And how do you bring that forward? And this takes practice. We do not fall out of bed in the morning put together and focused and personally powerful. We have to suit up for it. We have to get ready. And so I would say if you are working to a Zoom audience, these things apply. And even body language from the waist up becomes important. You try to keep a lot of the wild gestures out of that visual box because that can be distracting. If you're a gesturer, Zoom is probably like heaven to you because you can gesture off camera and get going, But if you're in a room with both, I think the most important thing is don't try to boil the ocean with this like we got you to do in groups. Pick one or two things that you think will help you be more powerful you, and in person and on camera. They will all apply. It's a transferable skill across medium. And a lot of it does have to do with the verbals and the vocals as well. So practice, practice, practice. Get that video camera on. It's painful to listen to ourselves, but if you know nobody else is going to hear it, you're probably going to do it. It's a great way to slow your speech down. It is a great way to practice pausing. It's a great way to see what's happening with my body that's not matching up with my message. And the only way I can tell you to do it is to practice and watch yourself doing it, and that's what we like to do. I cannot tell you how much fun I have had being with you today. And for all of you who hung in here on Zoom, thank you for joining us. We have a question down front, and then I'll...
Brenda, Laurel Bellows, I cannot tell you the last time that I have been in a room and learned and absorbed more information than today in 1 hour. You are superb. Thank you, and BPI.
Really appreciate that. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, to call and contact us. We are based here in Chicago. There's no reason we can't reach out and help. Go bold, aim high, be courageous, move forward, and help each other out. There's never been a more important time for women helping women, so we are here to help you, and have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Wow, that was incredible, and I don't think I could have said it any more beautifully than Laurel said it. Thank you, Brenda. Thank you so much for taking the time to educate us all, to empower us. I hope that each of you took some tools for your toolbox. I know I certainly did. In fact, you could see I have no paper in my hand. I took that out, right? And also, I am Italian. I am a wild, wild gesturer, so I have to definitely calm that one down. But thank you again, and thank you, Mary and Susie, for also your assistance in this. We're so happy that we're able to do this virtually, and thank you to all of our virtual participants for joining us. I hope that you've met some new friends. This is your opportunity to continue to build your network. Take these friendships and connections into the luncheon and take them beyond Navy Pier, take them into your lives. I hope that you stay connected to the network. You can join our LinkedIn group, as well as subscribe to our newsletter. We have wonderful, important information that we share with our members. We also are available to the public, so you can get inspired by different women, different members. So thank you. Thank you for joining us. Continue to network, but if you can make your way to the ballroom at 11:15 for our luncheon, the luncheon will be starting at about 11:25, and you're in for another amazing treat. We are so honored to have our Blackhawks, beloved Blackhawks women executives here with us today. So thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day.